inversions and how to use leg weaves successfully against them. So let's have a look. The first thing, you're standing like this, about inversions, that I'm going to use an inversion as a measure or a means of stopping somebody passing my guard. So if Miss Emmy here goes to the side of me, I might just have to circle my leg over and we're ready to go. If she goes further than that, I can use an partial inversion to make contact and square up my guard. If she goes all the way though, up and higher, now I've got to make bigger and bigger movements to follow her and land in a good position where our center line's lined up and I can start gripping on her. But if she beats me to the punch, she goes all the way to 12 o'clock, the moment that outside leg scissoring movement goes up to this degree, now we're getting into inversions and I might have to spin out and go into other forms of attack. It can also happen because my partner goes to the side on me and I start thinking that I'm doing a good job recovering. She changes direction on me and starts dropping in level, coming down. So now I may have to invert to move my hip away and get my legs between us, and then maybe I can come up and grip and go on the attack. So really what's happening is the person is moving into what we would call an inverted position, and then from there, either recovering or frustrating and giving you different problems. So what you want to know is what breaks an inversion. Okay? Most of the time when people first learn to invert, they'll have some issue where they're just trying to bring their legs in different ways, and what happens is they'll do things over here, and this doesn't feel right. It feels uncomfortable. If I go this way, and my head is over here, my legs are here, something feels off. When somebody inverts, they're trying to be exactly like this. They're trying to position their body so that their knees are about the same distance from their ears, because that's a position they can stop things from happening in. And if they do that at any point, whether it's one leg, whether it's another leg, and then an elbow knee frame that starts to come up on the other side, it doesn't matter, but they're trying to invert so that they can have something land on it and not get crushed by it. But if somebody goes to invert, and in the inversion, their knees are drawn to one side, the inversion is going to get stuck. It's going to get smashed down. If the hip is off balance and moved off to the side, that will usually bring the knees with it. If the person is pushing their toes into the floor and one of those feet gets picked up off the ground for whatever reason, that leg can be used to pull and draw the two knees down. And so if you know what the person who's inverting wants to do, what they need to accomplish, then it becomes a lot easier to understand how to break it down. Because really they have to be able to get into positions where their knees are the same distance from their ears. Something like this. It doesn't matter how they do it. All that matters is that when they get there, they're able to be knees the same distance from their head. So if you're trying to stop somebody or you're trying to understand how to beat an inversion, you might think about things like this. Okay? So let's see, Emmy, if you come right down, please. And you'll just spin all the way around, actually. So your head is right here. Emmy's going to bring her legs up towards me here. Okay? And she's got her feet on me. She's in an inverted position. Now, one thing I could do is I could try to break contact with an inversion and then start to manipulate whatever's in front of me. That might mean taking one ankle and using it to block another ankle and bring things down to the floor. That might mean that I take a knee and take it towards the other knee and bring things down to the floor. And then if I can get to it, I would maybe try to affect the hip. The problem is while you're doing all of that, the person on bottom will be using their legs to stay in contact with you on one side and then spin out and move their head away on the other side. And now you're back in guard or worse. You're just maybe where you started. So what we want to do is not just try and affect the inversion with our upper body. That's sort of going to tell us where things are going and what I might need to do. But really it's going to happen when my legs come in and actually affect the hip or actually affect the knees. So maybe if we're working in a situation like this and Emmy brings her legs up, she starts inverting on me, I might break the initial contact or develop some degree of control over the legs with the initial contact. But that's going to just give me the freedom to reposition my stance so that my left knee in this case is helping me break the inversion. Or I could go further and have my right leg help break the inversion and reach across my partner's hip here and bring my body weight down on top of it. So now there's no more inversion because those knees are not going to be going on either side of the head. So the inversion is their attempt to catch you up around 12 o'clock when you're challenging their center line, passing their guard. If they can do that, if they can catch you right at that moment, then they can potentially spin themselves out. They can potentially go on the attack. Usually it's just a means of recovering guard, but there are inversions that come out of different attacks and things like this. But if you're passing someone's guard, it's probably because they want to go back to guard. That's why they're inverting. So there are a couple ways to break it down. You just have to get the knees or the hips or the feet moving away from their head, because if they can't get there, they're not going to be able to safely invert. So how can you play that out in the context of a specific guard pass, like a leg weave? Well, if I come in and I'm in this half guard situation here, first thing is I should be using leg weaves when I can get the ankles uncrossed and when I'll be able to bring the two knees together in some way. It might be because she started somewhat low with the knee, or it might be because she starts up high with the knee, and off of my initial grip, I give a turn that lets me get to the inside bend of the knee. If I can get to the inside bend of the knee, and I can start stepping past this bottom knee, often your partner will feel very threatened with you getting into their half guard in this situation because they've got no elbow knee escape if you dig this knee all the way in. And it's very, very hard to turn in if I'm on the inside of this leg. When Emmy goes to turn to her right, I'm already pinning her just with my body position. Now we add in things like over-under grips, and we can really start to be effective passing here. So people don't like to have you on the inside bend of the knee here. What they're all gonna do is put that knee in the front of the shoulder so that as you try to go inside the knee, they just slightly reposition, they push you back, and now we've got to go to the outside bend of the knee. And the outside bend of the knee is where the leg weave kicks in, okay? So we want to be working in positions where we can uncross the ankles, and we can be sure to get to the outside bend of the knee. Maybe that's off, like I said, getting into the inside bend of the knee. It might be for other reasons, like I'm bringing my my underhook over the top of her leg. There's a lot of ways you can play this knee positioning, but ultimately I want to be on the outside bend of her knee so that when her weight comes down, even just this, if she tries to open her knee again, it's not easy to do. This is a super weak movement that you'll be trying to accomplish, and when I'm using my full shoulders to turn, I'm going to be good to go there. So we've got the ankles uncrossed. We know that we can get to the outside bend of the knee. That means it's time to potentially start leg weaving. When you do your leg weave, ideally, a desirable maximum is to get all the way underneath the bottom leg. So I make a false grip, but I actually grab the gi pants. So very often in this position, I'll lift to expose the hand position I want, which is wrist deep here. Then I'll make a flap of cloth with my left hand and give it to my right hand, okay? So I would like to get a good deep grip here, and also because we're wearing a gi, I would like to use the gi as best I can. So I'm gonna take my second hand, my left hand, and I'm gonna pick up on the leg. I'm gonna reach my right hand wrist deep and cup it all the way through. That way, when I bunch the gi up with my left hand, it immediately can fit in my right. So we pick up, we get the wrist deep position with the hand, and now I feed and make that flap of cloth and I tighten everything up. I pull my right elbow to my hip. That puts my shoulder right over the top of the bend of the knee on the outside. So now when Emmy tries to lift that knee up, even if she's actively lifting up, I can always curl my shoulder into her knee, and I make a turn with her knee that will always break down that positioning, okay? Again, that's assuming I'm on the outside bend of the knee and not on the front of a knee shield. Here, I can still make it happen, but it's gonna take a little bit of a setup to get that leg curling down into the position I want, okay? So it's always best if we're already on the outside of the bend of the knee. We use a pass-off method here to get the grip, false grip around the bottom of the leg if possible, my own elbow pulling to my own hip, my own shoulder curling her knee down. Now, at this point, she'll probably be curled up slightly, making grips on me, making frames, all these different things. You can get a lot of this part done without a lot of stress from the other person. They may not be just panicking at this point. But then, when you start going hunting for collars, especially this bottom collar, this crossbody grip, this is when the alerts are gonna be going off. They're not gonna like the way that this pull feels with their legs going here. Their guard starts to feel really weak, okay? So what you wanna do is start setting your body at an angle that makes it easy to get that grip. Don't fight for the grip straight on when you're just next to your partner's center line. They've got all of their main tools here to hand fight you, grip fight you, push you with legs, all these different things. So instead, she makes her leg super strong, she gets her grip super strong, she grabs my sleeve super strong. What I'm gonna do is step out to the side, and I wanna aim my outside leg, my support leg here, to step past her shoulders. Okay, if I can step past her shoulders, I can really get this pass to work. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna take whatever grip I can. Best would be somewhere on this lapel. If I can't get that, somewhere down in the sleeve. All I wanna do is curl up some cloth and stabilize myself. I'm not really trying to move her, just trying to stabilize myself against her. So that if she were to push on me and move me around, I can at least oppose that to some degree. Because all I'm really interested in is getting my right knee, the one trapped in the legs, to start moving towards the back of her bottom knee. Then I want to step up past her head. Okay? The moment we get here, now I really hunt for the collar. This is because I can bring my head in first, and I get her eyes turning the opposite direction of her knees. Once her eyes point the opposite direction of her knees, the pass is basically done, and now we're just signing off all the rest of the paperwork. We're just gonna go in and get this crossbody grip, the one on the bottom. I take a grip, I turn my palm up, and I bring my own elbow to my hip. Now I was downstairs turning my knee inside her knee, and I'm just going to exaggerate that. I'm gonna point my right knee as sharply as I can towards her knees, so that my right foot is like a kickstand and I'm sliding up close to my own hip. Once that happens, it's super easy to just pommel that leg on through, put my other knee on the ground, while I transition into what I call a left-sided hip. The whole time I'm doing this, I'm challenging her center line. I'm keeping my head on one side of her center line and my hips on the other. There's 1,000 different ways we can resolve this pass. For now, we'll just turn back into a right-sided hip position so that my right knee is sharply bent, my toes are tucked back, and my pinky toe is kickstand on the floor. My left leg stays up past the head, and I do a very sophisticated movement that I call a reverse Homer Simpson, where I step backwards until I feel her knees pointing the opposite direction. Once I've got her knees pointing the opposite direction, it's safe for me to change my upper body grip. 1 and 2. You can lock gable grip, wrist to wrist, or you can lift up on that armpit and curl your thumb into their armpit, push off the ground, drag an elbow in along the floor, and put in a good crossface that has some strangle power with it. If you do that last one, you'll want to sit your hip at the top of this upper 45 and aim your head down at the bottom of this 45. And that's going to give you a very strong crossface that makes them want to move because it starts to put strangle pressure on them. Okay, so that's some of the nuts and bolts of a leg weave. Now when someone's inverting on you, it's usually going to happen because they get a sense that they can't keep hold of your right leg. Okay, so if we're facing this direction here, Emmy's got her half guard locked up, she's got her knee shield, she's got her collar, she's got the sleeve. Okay, and so I'm working here, I'm looking to get that leg weave. I notice that I can get to the outside of the bend of the knee. Sometimes it will be here. Again, remember, sometimes it'll be up to here. That's not a problem. What you need to do is just get outside of the knee. Just turn this way a little bit. Okay, so here, she's got her shin right in the seam of my jacket here. There's my shoulder, there's my pectoral. She's putting that part of her shin, fitting it right there. Okay, so it's good and strong there. So she's got sleeve and collar, and I'm working to get my leg weave. If I go directly, that can work, but if it's not working, I can do things like pull the heel away from the butt. I can do things like clamp it close to the butt, swim inside of it with a scoop grip and get my shoulder inside, something that threatens the inside bend of the knee. And once I start threatening the inside bend of the knee, she's likely going to drop this knee shield just a hair bit down this way to recover knee position. And that's when I go to the leg weave. We weave the arm through. I'm looking to get in and get a hold of the gi pants and get my right hand all the way up and over, and then I pass that grip into my right hand. Okay? Now I'm going to start turning my shoulder down and curling her knees together. As I do this, I step my left leg up and forward. If I can, just go directly to the head. That would be awesome, but it's probably not going to happen. And now I start taking my right leg and I start turning it in sharply like this. Okay, so the position I'm doing right there is I was in a leg weave here. I had my grip set. I'm looking with my left hand, my support leg's out to the side, and what I'm looking to do is turn this knee in sharply so that I get up to the back of the bottom knee. Then when I move, my heel just goes up to my butt and I turn it while I place my left knee down, my right foot touches, and then I switch so I'm in the exact opposite stance. So it goes from a right-sided hip where we exaggerate to a left-sided hip where we then exaggerate. And that will get us into position to deal with the inversion. Okay, so we're here. I go through my strategic thought process. Okay, I know I can get to the outside bend of the knee. Here we go. Leg weave is on. Okay, now I start stepping forward. I'm looking for some working grip on her arm, on her bottom collar. I start stepping in. I curl my knee in towards her knees. I circle over and I hunt for that collar. If I get the collar immediately, that's awesome. If not, my head goes right in here. When I move her head away, then I grab. You can often keep your hand right underneath your own chin as you go close to try and find that grip you're looking for. Okay? Now, around this point, when I haven't switched my stance to when I have switched my stance, if an inversion is going to happen, it's probably going to happen right now. Okay, so what's probably going to happen is she'll make a frame with the top side of her body, and she'll look to come towards me, bringing her head in and her hips up high. She would love to get to here, where her knees are more or less symmetrical over her head. Because now any weight that I put down on her is easy for her to dislodge if she decided to, or what she'll probably do is keep the left leg on me and swing this right leg out and around so she moves her head away, and now she can even end up in a good attacking position. Okay, so that's her inversion, and that's when it's going to happen. Everybody good? So what do we do about that? So we come in, everything's going well. Things are going great. I'm getting my grip up. There's my grip. I start going to free my legs. I'm turning that knee in. I circle it out. Now she gets that frame under my neck. She starts making her inversion. Bringing the hips up and head in. There we go. There we go. So the hips come all the way up like this. Okay, we'll be right here. Right about to you. And your head will be up. Yeah. And again, the inversion can occur in different degrees. You might find yourself in this stage or this stage or whatever it is. What you want to do is you want to remember that it's not likely the person is going to start inverting and then be able to just freely go back and out of the inversion. It is possible, but I think that's a little bit easier to track because you should be able to see that they're going back to where they were and just renew the attack you were on. It doesn't really save them, especially when you add an attack in the opposite direction that takes advantage of this. So now she starts inverting again, but instead of just trying to come out of the inversion, she starts completing the inversion. Okay? So what we want to do is I'm going to take one hand as a check on either leg, and I'm going to meet my own hand with my knee. So I don't really worry about aiming on her legs. I take my knee and I aim at my own leg, because I'll always get there. Then I pull the top leg, whichever one that is now, and I grab the pants on the far side. Now I'm going to do a few things together. I'm going to put my left knee behind the same leg as my right knee, and I keep working to here. And then I pull her knees down to the floor so she's no longer in an inversion. Okay, very often people will have a frame here, or maybe at this distance if you've gotten into this position. What you should do is never just grab this arm and try to move it away. Give me a strong push your hand. Grab the pants, aim for that bottom collar in a way where you can cover the knees to some degree. Now I can deal with this arm. First thing I try to do is swim inside of it like a bicep tie and then punch my hand right down to the floor next to their ear. Now I can sit my hip into the armpit, which is another type of Homer Simpson. We won't really get into that right now, but it's another type of Homer Simpson. Now the key here is she's going to be turning towards me. She's going to be trying to get something done. So I've got to keep my head across the center line. I've got to challenge the center line all the way through the movement until we are done with our guard pass. And we can end that in a bunch of different ways. Okay? So the big idea is if you're going to be using leg weaves and people are going to be inverting, it's probably going to be in the moments between this movement here and this movement here, where you're pointed at the legs and they're looking to spin underneath you to recover their guard. When they spin under, they have to make it to that somewhat symmetrical position before they can spin out the way they came from, or spin out in the direction that would complete the inversion. So what you're looking to do is to get hands on them, knees on them, in a way where you can drag their knees down, drag their hip down, or otherwise take them out of that symmetrical position they need when they go to the inversion. If you can do that, you'll land in a really good position off of the guard pass, probably even better than what you would have had you just completed the initial leg weave. So that'll be it for this one. maybe we'll do some more follow-ups in the future. I'm Tim Peterson. This is Emery Nagata. Thanks for taking the time to watch.